Hey everyone, welcome to our first podcast. My name is Harsh, and today I am with my co host Amit. So, why don't we start by introducing ourselves, who we are, what we do, and what's our reason of starting this and being here? Amit.
Thanks for organizing this, Harsh. My name is Amit. I work as a coach. I help people design their own life and career systems. It's more about getting into the things that make them whole, and I help them unlock that. The reason why I wanted to do a podcast was a lot of the times things that coaches do and people who are hiring coaches, they have a misconception of what what this is all about. They imagine this is more like a one time quick fix solution to their problems or the issues or the challenges that they're facing. But in real life, it's more about even without a coach, there are so many things on a journey where you are learning a lot of things about yourself. So it's more about figuring out what can and how you can help yourself stay in that towards state of mind. And that's where most of my work comes in.
Awesome. So, that's mainly about giving value that you're doing this.
Yeah, and helping people find and discover their own answers. It's never, I personally don't like being told what to do. And when anybody says, this is good for you, this is why you need to do it, I immediately start challenging that. And I feel a lot of people might have the same way too, but it doesn't stick with them because it didn't come from them. So that's the idea of figuring out what works for you in a way that you can not wait for somebody else to tell you, but just do it because it makes sense to you.
Great. That's great explanation of what you do. And for people about something about me, I'm Harsh. I work as a software engineering intern right now, and I'm 22 years old. I'll be graduating at the end of this month. The reason I'm doing this podcast, the reason I wanted to start this is mainly two things. First is that I felt that I'm consuming a lot of ideas and I'm thinking about them, but I felt that in all that process of consuming, I lacked channel of letting it out of myself and expressing it. So the podcast made a sense to me, like hearing something, learning about something, and then immediately sharing this sharpens your ideas about the topic and you're also sharing it with others. The second thing is that for the past 1 year, I have been actively trying to improve my communication. And that is where I've been trying to experiment with different ideas on how can I push myself and put myself in situations which creates pressure in terms of expressing myself and speaking. So this made some sense to me. So that is why I am here sitting here today. And my first question to you, Amit, is how old are you, by the way?
Just last month, I turned 37.
Okay, great. So you're 37. So I want to ask you, what's your approach with your goals in life, short term or long term? How do you go by, what mindset do you go by when you think about achieving your goals?
When I think about that, I feel as when I was 22, I would imagine I can never be stopped. I imagined I will achieve everything I wish for myself. And I was very ambitious in a way. Not that that ambition hasn't gone away, but 37 is just the beginning of what's commonly known as a midlife crisis. So people start to do a lot of things which seem strange for their age. And just so that they are trying to compensate for something that they missed in their when they were younger. But in my case, I always felt I was way much way older than my own age that's set as a number on my passport or any identification. So in my mind, I was already probably 35 when I was 25, something. I don't know how to explain it best, but it's more about I always imagined, okay, let me just see what I can do as maturely as I can, as best as I can. And I always had that independent mind. So my goals were very simplistic, so to say. So when I was younger, I felt I wanted to have one business, and by 37, I had four different businesses. But when I was younger, I thought I would never like to work for anyone. I still had three jobs in my life until 37, and I was very much right as a younger me when I said I don't want to work for anyone. I just want to do something by myself. So I'm back to doing that now. So goals, when I look back at how I was imagining, is like achieve this, and that would bring me some sense of fulfillment, some sense of success. Like, how do I imagine having a business, being profitable, generating money? All these things were metrics. They make sense because you have to do something, you have to measure something. But in pursuit of that happiness, I never felt it was a complete vision of what I had in my mind. And that's the start of what my version of midlife crisis. In a way, I'm not trying to challenge that those measures and metrics are not relevant, but I am now looking at not goals, but I'm trying to think and look forward to things that bring me joy. So goals and success and all these metrics are like going to a certain point, achieving it, and then starting to feel empty. So when I did that, when I had my business, I reached the milestones that I wanted to reach. And I really did not like, because I had no idea what to go and where to go from there. Because when you reach top of the summit, if you start to climb down and you are in those trenches back again, it can get confusing. It can feel, well, why do I feel like that? I mean, I wanted to achieve something and I did, and now I'm back down here. What's going on? So that's the realization that instead of going after something that might feel successful, I want to go after things that bring me joy. So when you said you are starting to communicate and learning how to speak better, I'm there with you, because these speaking with someone, connecting, relating, communicating, trying to understand these things that I took for granted when I was younger is what I'm trying to learn and unlearn again as I'm getting older. So it's amazing to see that when you are still in your early 20s and you are trying to do these things, because these soft skills, no, I would not say even soft skills, I would say like human skills. This is what is going to be useful for no matter what profession we all end up in. But if we can't connect and we can't communicate and we can't relate to each other, then what's the point of everything happening? So these are the questions that I ponder on as I get older, as usually it happens. There's a case, and that's my goal as well, in a way, to see how I can be of help to people who, in my case, were stuck, but it might be, doesn't matter the age, but it matters about if they know where they're stuck, if they need to get something removed, unstuck, and let them stop spinning and go forward, they have the answers within them because they did held together a lot of things until that point. They know how to figure things out. It's not that somebody has to give them a prescription. Follow these are the guidelines, do this, and you will become successful. So that's the opposite of what I want to do. It's more about, let's define your own success. Let's define your own blueprint in a way that kind of makes sense for you, that you can go after without doubting yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you approach these things by what direction you are going after. And my experience with chasing a goal has been very, very chaotic, because currently in my life, whenever I try to chase after some things, there's rarely a time when I have single thing in my mind, because there's all the time I'd be trying to do three different things. And that just makes it hectic, and that always keeps my to-do list filled with tasks. So I realized recently, I studied something in psychology called a top-down approach and bottom-up approach. Top-down is when you set a target and you try to achieve that, w- and try to make a way to go there by whatever you can do. Whereas bottom up is, you build something from whatever you have right now, and then you don't know where exactly you're reaching. I was listening to someone, and then I had this realization that when we make to-do lists to achieve our task, we are always trying to do the top-down approach, where we always know where we want to go, and we try to find our ways going that. And I realized that somehow maybe that is counterintuitive and not something you would have by intuition. Because when you follow your intuition and you don't set a set goal of where exactly you do want to go, and just use whatever opportunities you have right now and lead from them, that is a bottom up approach. So if I have to follow that right now, what I would need to do is get rid of all of my goals, all of my to-do lists, and then just build from whatever is coming to me or whatever opportunities I have, and basically rely on omens of life, which is a huge deal. So I'm trying to explore this idea more. I want to go, like, to lead with this bottom up approach, but this really like shatters all of my ideas about productivity and goals achieving I had previously. What do you think about this?
Let me ask you first, how does how do you feel about getting rid of those goals, like you said, starting bottom up? So the things that you want to achieve, when you remove all that, what do you feel is surfacing up?
I feel that when I let go of that, there is a fear that there are some things I want to do, and if I let go of that, I won't would not be able to do them. It would not happen, and which is not guaranteed anyway. If I set a goal and try that, there's really a chance that you get to that. So there's fear associated with it and attachment to hanging on this stuff, because even if you're not achieving, but you feel like you're moving in a direction, it feels like winning. And in this case, you rarely actually win in that. So clinging to that feeling of making those to-do lists and being in that planning mode where you're constantly thinking about that stuff, whether that is happening or not, makes you feel that you are achieving that even if you're not. So it's kind of hard to let go of that attachment.
It is indeed. It's something you feel like it's in you, like that's something that came from you and you want to go after that. So of course it's difficult to detach from it. What I want to unpack this a little bit more, if that's okay with you.
Hmm, sure.
What do you think would surface if you remove all the goals? What do you think you will see in there? What's remaining?
If I remove my goals, what would remain is the f- probably the feelings I am chasing, to which I would have if I achieve those goals.
Mm-hmm. What are those
So
feelings?
yeah, let's say if I'm talking about starting a business of my own and becoming rich, that that would, what feeling would that associate with? That, I think that would lead me to the ability to buy anything I can and do anything I can, travel and do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. What else feels true to you?
True to me. I think there's also a sense about trying to prove that. So I just didn't mention building a business like an example because that's something I actually want to do. It's also about proving that I can do this, and being that guy who did something.
Mm-hmm. There's there's a great amount of wisdom in what you're saying. So at one side, what I would like to invite you is just to explore which emotions are surfacing. Like having a business, having the power, having that validation would give you the ability to travel, to buy things. But ask yourself, are you building that business? Do you want to get rich and get that validation so that you can travel, so that you can buy things? Or there is that inner self that is seeking something else, that's seeking some genuine emotion. So if you, it might not come naturally, but this is something that you can think about doing as a reflective way. There is nothing wrong, and like absolutely not. It's a great ambition to have to build a business, build something of your own, and see it work. And if you hear yourself what you just said, it's more about in the pursuit of this ambition. You are attaching something materialistic to it, like buying things. You feel like your power of money means you have that worth in terms of all these things that you can buy, acquire, and things like that. But how you feel, how would that make you feel? Let's say tomorrow you wake up tomorrow and you already have a successful business, you already have all this money. Ask yourself, how would that make you feel?
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, and from what I said, I think I mixed two things. So one thing from building a business is about the process and the joy I want to have by being in that process of being the leader and building things and making decisions, because that's what I think that what I want to do in the future. Right now, my job is to write code and build products. And eventually, I want to be at a situation where I'm making decisions and leading something like a business to create value in one thing or another. So, but there's also a part of being successful and being and the money with it, which comes with it, because even if you follow your passion, you are not just doing it to just enjoy the process. There is some outcome in terms of money or success you want from it. So I want both of those things. That's what I meant. And yes, that's where I'm leading into
Mhm.
both the feelings of building that thing and the materialistic things.
Let's use a sports analogy. So Serena Williams is well known, a world champion. She's the best in women's tennis by far. Not just in terms of how many trophies she's achieved, but there are a lot of things that she proved can be possible for people of different backgrounds. So her coach once asked her, imagine you won a Grand Slam, and imagine that scenario. You are in the stadium, everybody cheering, and you just beat your opponent, and you won one of the dreams. You overcame one of the hurdles you had. You won what you were going after. Imagine and put yourself in that scenario and say what emotions or what feelings are coming up. So in that, Serena answered, I would be jumping with joy. I would be running around and I would be so happy. But the coach reminded that in those moments, the rawest form is realizing that you did what you said you will. You achieved what you were going after. And the only thing and the only emotion that you will feel is just crying on the floor. It's nothing bad about that. It's not feeling sad, but that coming up with so much joy is the tears of happiness. So you will be, that's one of the reasons when we see all these sports personalities, when they win, they are not controlling how they're feeling. It's just that they arrived where they wanted to arrive. They were not prepared for how to feel about that because up until that moment, they were only thinking about how to win that game. But when they do, all that emotion, all that outpouring comes out. And when those players realize it, they start to do this practice of visualizing, like imagining already those things that they want to go after happening and how would that make them feel. And I really invite you to imagine that kind of exercise, not right now, but in your time when you have to go after. But the reason why I say this is when you have goal, when you have some milestone, that is your direction to go in. But for you to stay in that direction, you need fuel, you need that energy. And that energy comes from your feelings, from your emotions. So if you are true to that, like, okay, I'm not only chasing and I'm not only going after that business because it gives me what I want in terms of power, but I'm going after this true feeling of fulfillment, this true feeling of achievement, this true feeling of completing something that I wanted. And that's joyful. And if you put those things together, then there is nothing stopping you, because starting a business, launching anything new has its own challenges. I know a lot of those businesses fail for several reasons. But even if yours does, you will not even think about winning or losing at that moment. You will imagine how the journey was along the way. What are the things that you had to overcome? How you as a person you were becoming, what you were discovering about yourself. So it's not only that you will imagine that, yeah, I achieved a business and I have this, but it's more about how as a human you are developing yourself, that you can then go and take all those learnings along the way and apply to something else. So it's the idea is to build that mindset, build that thing where I'm not only doing it just because I have this goal, I'm doing it so that it gives me this mindset. It builds something that you can use it in all aspects of life. So that's where I was. That's something that I realized later in my life. And if I had to say this to my younger self, which I kind of imagine in you, like, at this age, 22. So go beyond that. And in Ultra Speaking, we were trying those exercises of jumping universe. Kind of similar. So, it's in a way, what's the thinking behind the thinking? So what's the thought behind the thought? And if you figure that out, it becomes not only your armor, but it's really fuels your journey. So there will be days when you feel like I don't want to do it. There will be days when you feel like it's you against the world. But that when that mindset has already developed enough to handle these little hurdles along the way, then you just ideally keep moving forward, because your goal is to just keep in that toward state of mind.
That's so brilliant what you said, because I think it's about being at your center of what you actually want rather than associating your goals with some other values, like which are more materialistic and less related to yourself, rather than they are about the ideas of what you want to become. Like there there are two separate things, like what you want and what you think you want. So I think it's more about getting closer to what you actually want. Okay, let's talk about something else. For a change of topic, what do you think about doomer AI? Are you have like more optimistic views about what the world would be 10 years later when it comes to AI and the impact it's creating? Or are you a doomer kind of guy?
My I always don't react. I don't know why. I mean, since I was growing up, I noticed everybody had some prophecies, so to say. Like everybody felt like they were a version of an oracle. They were forecasting, predicting something. And I'm not Warren Buffett, Buffett, or I would not know where things are going. Even he wouldn't know the answer. I can only speculate. So it's not about doom or AI. It's more about what are we not learning about ourselves whenever there has been a cycle of change. So I feel like it's more of a change at this moment. It's a good evolution about how things are moving faster, and this will only increase as we grow. So there is no taking that away. So I'm not commenting on that part. And I'm not saying we need to go back to the Stone Ages where all these things were up for grabs for everyone. No. So we need to evolve. We need to change. All these things are part of the system. That's how we as an organism overall have to take care of each other. But we are not learning. One thing we are not learning is there's so much selfish ideologies around any of these things which happen. So it's basically anything that has benefit for the masses. It's more to a point when only greed takes over. So I love the part where humans and machines are interconnected to a point where it's completely normal to have that as a society. It's I could imagine that because I grew up watching a lot of science fiction movies and I loved the visuals that they were giving me back then. Everything seems in that futuristic mind, like a utopia. But in reality, none of those things that we need to learn, basic building blocks, are always missed out because they're not that important, because they're not that profitable. So I'm not sort of a doomer AI or like a pro AI or anything like that. It's more about what is this teaching us about ourselves? Like, are we still able to help each other? Are we still able to relate to each other? Are we still able to communicate? Are we still able to understand, be not only empathetic, but sympathetic about situations which are happening to one another? And that's one thing that worries me, that every single time any big jump or leap in innovation happens, the attention is going all towards that shiny thing, that shiny object, because our attention span has decreased. And instead of trying to even think of doing things along the way, which benefits overall humanity. I don't know how I might sound like. Maybe this is the old me thinking about this, but I always had the impression where if we can do things which are simple enough to just help each other, if we at least try to solve those things, then it doesn't matter what technology we have to deal with. Those things are given part of the system. It's coming, and there will be different versions of it. So yeah, that's what I always imagine. Like, are people going to become even more isolated than they were before? Are people going to be even more disenfranchised than they were before? Are only the select few who can understand how to leverage this can go up in the hierarchy, and the others who do not, they will be basically ignored or forgotten? So these are the things that it creates this, discrepancies, and that's probably the thing that we don't learn from. So that's what I would wish, that we kind of figured out a way to handle and manage those things while still climbing up.
Yeah. I'll ask this question to people a lot. And it's very interesting that your answer about this question is more focused on people and how they are with each other, because that relates to your profession as well. Because the kind of profession you are in, where you're dealing with people, it is not going to be affected by AI because it's not on majorly on computers. And so it's interesting that your answer is more aligned, more centered on people and their values. Because my job as a software engineer is the first in line to get replaced. And most people who are software engineers are of the doomer mentality. And there's an interesting thing I read that Sam Altman has gas masks, guns, and gold in his house, stored in for the day if something goes south. And there's also a very famous guy called Varun Maya. He lives in Bangalore and he runs multiple businesses, and he's probably one of the leading guys when it comes to AI in India. And he also bought a huge piece of land in Bangalore recently. He mentioned this 3 years ago that if we are living in a doomer AI scenario, there would be a land would be a very powerful resource in that. And he said this 3 years ago, and he said that he wants to buy land for that. And just a few months ago, he bought a huge amount of land in Bangalore, and he said about this topic. So I don't know from that respect, but for jobs, like certain jobs are definitely going to be replaced, like software engineering. And it's fine because software engineers automated a lot of stuff in the life of in the life of this career that it has existed. And so it's fine. It's software engineers' turn to be replaced now. That happens. But what do you think about this doomer scenario from the perspective of the elite on how they are reacting?
It's it's difficult to imagine. It's difficult to think what their actual motivations are or what their ambitions are. They will do what they can. And what I say in this scenario is it's regardless of what happens or what the outcome is from all this. It it can be fully bust. I mean, these tools and all the things which is out there in the market can completely go out and fully be regulated and to a point where it's just another version of a software. So we are back to being how things were. Or this just takes away jobs. Endless people have lost their livelihoods and things like that can happen. So I what's the thing that can benefit? It's that's a good wake up call. That if something has the power to take something away from you, that's where you start building things on to create your own version of. And that's what I feel like, okay, well, people who will lose jobs, they will have to find things and figure out what they can do for themselves. And I think coaches as well will be replaced. I feel a lot of things once they achieve AGI, or there are rumors about AGI in Anthropic already. Like, we saw some examples recently. But regardless of that, I feel we have to still we will still as a society keep going on, and these tools are not there to replace us as who we are. They're replaced to the things we do. So if the AI is replacing, I'm good at something, okay, great, let it do it. Let me find out what else I can be great at, what else I can be enjoying doing. Then it's more about coming back to the basics, to where in in I don't know how far back I can go, but when there were not so that when the technology was much more simpler. So the times where people had to just do things along, be in a community, be in a village in that scenario, and then help each other out. So I think we might probably just end up in that situation where the the focus and the idea of people joining and building communities where they band together for certain things, and that might play out that way. So yeah, I think
Yes.
it, my mind, I don't know why, maybe it's not risk averse. I love taking risks, but I'm always thinking of, so what? I mean, even if it happens, I'm sure, I believe in ourselves that we will find something, we will solve something for us. And yeah, that's the optimism speaking, but yeah, it can be like that. I mean, because you have to be hopeful, you have to be in a state of mind where you are able to solve things, you are able to do things. And if you already start solving smaller items instead of fixing the problems of the world, you will already start seeing change in that smaller community, and that community can become a larger ecosystem that can grow in itself. So people have to invest it into things, not only thinking long term, but acting short term. And it was sometimes said to be acting short term and then thinking long term. So that leads nowhere. You're basically speculating when you are just doing things a little bit and then you're imagining how the scenario will be. Far, you have no control of what tomorrow is going to be. So what is the point of speculating in the next 5 years, 10 years? You can set yourself some targets where how you see yourself in 5 years, how you see yourself in 10 years, and go after that. Other things which are moving around, which are not in your control, you should not even worry about. So it's basically what you are concerned about is what you can manage, what you can have power to control. And that is much more simple. It's a simpler way, but it's more manageable way to live.
That is so unique, your opinions about this, and it relates so much to what you do about coaching people. That's a very unique opinion I hear from you. Uh, and it's also, I think, about identity, like how this topic and your opinions about this are relating to your identity, because that is what you do. And I think that is also the problem of the society that we have in general, because we associate our jobs with our identity. So when AI comes and replaces our jobs, then we find a lack of identity. But if we go to past, the concept of jobs has not existed for as long as we know it now. And the only jobs AI is impacting are the white collar jobs. So, like you said, that we might be living in small communities, that would, if that happens and AI is able to do all the high functioning stuff, then we might be finding ourselves going back to blue collar jobs like working at a petrol pump or something like that, where it's not related to our identity. But it's fine, we can do that because we don't need to do like, we don't need to code stuff and we don't need to do stuff like that. So, yeah, and about the doomer perspective, I agree with you that I'm also optimistic, but there's all like a very less chance about that happening, like 5% or 10%. But there's a guy who's called Godfather in AI. He made some very huge developments in AI a few decades ago, and along with him, multiple top people in AI research have said that we will be able to achieve AGI in 2027 or before that. And the next step in AI, which is ASI, which is an intelligence even smarter than humans, that will be able to be possible around 2030. So there's a 5 to 10% chance of that happening. And when I say AGI, like there are some tasks like coding and design, something like this, AI can do even better than humans at this moment in some areas when we have some constraints. But Demis, who's the CEO of Google DeepMind, he said recently that you call an AI AGI when you give it all the context we have of human data and up until 19th century. Let's say you give it all the context, and if it comes up with theory of relativity like Einstein did on its own with all of that context, then it is an intelligence compared to humans. So we have not reached that level yet, but like I said, there's a slight amount of chance that in very few years, like 5 years or so, AI will be able to cross that mark. And there's a very popular theory when it comes to this. So you ask AI, when AI is all in robots and able to move around the physical stuff and do stuff. So what you do is, what that theory states is, you ask it to calculate the value of pi. So value of pi is an infinite number. It can go on as long as it can. And you ask it and it starts calculating. And in the process of that, it never stops because it is infinite. So in the process of calculating it, it starts using all of its resources and everything that it can do. So it uses up all the money that we have, all the economy, and then in the process, it kills humans, not intentionally, in the process of it, without even intending it. Like how we treat ants, like it comes under our foot when we are walking. We didn't have any intention of killing it, but it dies. So similarly, like AI robots, in the process of calculating the value of pi, they kill humans. So this is a popular theory, and there's like, I believe that there's very less chance, like probably less than 1%, but that can happen.
That would be that would make a very nice movie nowadays if you imagine that scenario. Yeah, but yeah, okay. Let's, even if that happens, my mind goes to saying we still have time until that happens. So what we're gonna do until then? So yeah, there are, there are. I'm still thinking about how I can leverage these tools to make my job better. So if I had to design, I'm pretty somehow I was pretty good at as being a generalist. So I could make my own websites, I could design my own things, I can do copywriting, I can do sales. And that's one of the reasons why it helped me to do the things I was doing. I mean, build businesses and sell products and services and things like that on my own. But it took me a while to learn those things. I didn't, I took some designing work, designing training when I was in college. And somehow it's always fascinated me about the interaction of we as humans with the systems that we use. And at one point, I could even make 3 websites and within a week span for a client's work. And it was a time it was so much fun, and it was like even 10 years ago when all these systems did not exist. But now I can do it so fast, so instantaneous, where I feel like, why do I need to bother about it if it can already be done? The client, you can just go prompt yourself and just to create whatever you need. What I'm trying to get here is I didn't want to do those things. I needed those tools. I needed those as a medium, basically, just to communicate, here's my business, this is what I do, and things like that. Now I can do it differently if that's taken away. So I built a lot of things. I'm trying in process of building even self-coaching platform. It's not of a replacement, even though there are replacement for coaches, like I said, existing. Some companies already tried, but people don't like to interact. People don't like to share these things with AI because it it records in perpetuity. Even if it doesn't share, it's a lot of confidential information going in between. So for coaching, for therapy, all these sessions are private and fully confidential, where no data, no information is shared with anything. And but if you are willing to share everything that you want and have, then these tools are just relevant enough to listen to you, to make you feel seen, to make you feel heard. And then you can get along with your day as you're going. So there are ways to do this, but people still crave for that connection. So it's not that my job is more focused on not being able to be replaced by it, but I'm rather thinking, so what? Even if I'm just going to figure out what I can do next. I mean, that's the beauty of becoming older. The older you get, the less you care about these things. And I'm only 37, so imagine people who are 50. Imagine people who are 60. If you speak to your grandparents, or if you have people who are old enough to have lived beyond 70, 80, look at them. They've seen so much. They've seen so much change in their lifetime. So many things have come and gone. They've seen wars, much worse than in our age we have right now. They've seen crises where we can't even imagine. They've seen famine, and they survived. They made through it. That's a great example to look. And that's what I'm trying to say, that we as people will keep going. We will, as people, will keep moving, regardless of things happening around us, regardless of everything burning up around us that we can imagine. And yeah, that's the beauty of it. I mean, we are having this conversation right now. Probably it will be pretty aged because of how things are moving, and in a few days' time, even, you know. But when we still look at this in 10 years' time, I think if we can see ourselves then I think that would feel kind of sensible. Yeah, we still made it. We are still around, and that's where my mind goes. And it's not that I'm trying to hide the issues, I hide the problems. It's not that. I understand that we have the problems, but my mind always goes to what can I do that I can in the best ability I have to solve it, if I can, even if I want to solve it. So that's where I go. So yeah, this is very. It might come across as more, therapeutic, but it's more to the relatedness of how we each of us think. So my mind is just, yeah, it's like, it doesn't take, I don't feel like I can be stopped by the problem. I just feel like I can just need to try. It's a software mind, like, you are a software engineer, so you are trying to, it's fun to go through I don't know if it's fun, but it's fun to build things. You can program things and you can come see it happening. And Debugging is another thing. Like, how you can go and check things out, how things are not working, what you can fix if you enjoy doing that part. But that's the beauty of it, to just fixing things that are broken in a way. So, and if you want to do it, we can do it. If not, then there are so many other things to look around and fix. It can be a simple chat that with a friend that you haven't said hi for a long time. I haven't connect I connected forget. So I feel I need to improve on that part. So that's the thing. Uh, yeah, it can come down to why I feel like everything I say comes down to this, because I believe that's what we are as a people. If we don't, then who else will? These tools and AIs are not going to think for us about us. They will be programmed to work on certain things, and we have to think about us. We have to think about things we can do in our capacity.
That's actually so fresh to listen to you speak on this. You're very optimistic about this, and there's a fresh perspective on this. Lots of your core beliefs are surfacing as you speak about these topics. Did you hear about that red button versus blue button trend that was going recently?
As a meme,
No, no,
um,
no, not the meme. Everyone responds with the meme when I ask them this. So a guy made a tweet recently about a choice between red button and blue button. There were conditions with it. And then
mhm.
Mr. B said that if he can repost it. So then he reposted it and it blew off and everyone was talking about it. So what it says is that everyone on earth has to make a choice between red button and blue button at the same time. If more than 50% of people press the blue button, everyone survives. If less than 50% press the blue button, then the blue ones die and the red ones survive. What would you press in that?
So if I press the blue button, and if I am among the more than 50%, then everybody lives. Is that what it says?
Yes, everybody lives. But if you press the blue button and less than 50% have pressed the blue, then the blue ones die, but the red ones survive.
Okay, so it's like the what was the TV show? It reminds of that as a scenario. Not Hunger Games, but the South Korean TV show. I forget it.
Squid Game.
Squid Games. Yes,
Yes.
it reminds of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting way to think of an exercise. So here it's also the same, where this reminds of the scenario where you have this lever to pull. Would you pull the lever so that train goes away and doesn't kill the
Yeah.
people on the tracks, or you let the train roll and kill the people?
So I have thought about this question for many days and I
Mm-hmm.
have built my perspective many times and heard to most people as well. So I want to know like what's your first opinion? Like what comes to your mind?
I would I would go the counterintuitive way. I'll tell you why. I would I would not pull the lever. I would let the train go. I I would click the red button for several reasons. Now it goes and breaks everything that I said before about being optimistic in sales, but let me tell you why. It's statistical. So if I'm already, and nobody knows the answer yet. So if I'm already not pulling the lever and letting the train run, so only those many people die. Nobody knows about it. If I press the red button and I start to be one of those people who wanted to press blue because I want everybody to live, but then I'm already pressing the red in the hope that others will press blue. So it's more about I'm taking away my vote, and I'm putting my vote in a box where people don't want to be in. So my vote kind of is to the point where, if it does it, by the way, does the meme show that who's voting how much? Or it's just when the voting
No, no,
finishes and
no.
only then it shows?
Yes, then it shows.
Okay.
So you don't know
Yeah.
what
So
other people are voting.
okay. So I I have high hopes in humanity. I hope I really am hopeful for each of us, and I hope and I know people would make the best choice in scenarios like that. So in
Yes,
because
because
I want to be in the blue, I would still choose
Yeah,
red.
yeah. And even if you think about that, a lot of people ask other people that if your kids are choosing, what would you make them choose? Like red or blue? And most people would say red. And there's also an interesting perspective on this that you are choosing blue to solve a problem that is created by choosing blue. Because if everyone presses red, everyone survives. Red has a 100% probability on surviving. And one different way I imagined this was imagine there are two train tracks. One is empty, and the other one there's a train coming. And if on the track where the train is coming, more than 50 out of 100 people are on the track, that train will stop. And if less than 50 people are on the track, that train will crash you and the people die. So, on what track would you jump? The one where the train is coming, or the one which is an empty track and the train is not coming? It is the exact same question as the red button, blue button, but it's about if you jump on the track where the train is coming, you are trying to solve a problem which is created by jumping on the track.
Hmm. So I would not jump on the track where everybody else is jumping. I would not do that.
Yeah, yeah. That is what my answer was as well. But I think the important thing here in this question is the percentage, which is the 50% mark. If that was 99%, that if more than 99% people press blue, then everyone survives or else everyone dies. Then everyone would press red. It makes no sense. And if it was opposite, if it was only 1%, then everyone would press blue. And only a very few people would press red in that case. So yeah, I think the percentage part is important because on internet most people were like, you are being selfish by pressing red. But it's the percentage part which is important. It's put the question into a very edgy and dicey place where you don't know if you'll survive or not. The best approach is to make that a certainty. So the percentage is important, and that I believe that does not weigh into your morals that if you are being selfish or not.
Hmm. I understand where the meme was going. So I assumed that if I didn't know that everybody has to press red for everybody to live, but if less than 50% of the blue press, then only then the blue dies or something like that. So yeah, in that case, my vote has no meaning. My vote has no value because it's like you said, it's based on this. I thought if I click on red, then red dies or something like that. So that's what I had imagined. So I was imagining in that scenario where people would want to live, so they would all want to pile up in the blue one, so they will save it in a way. But I just put my vote there. But anyway, that's a great exercise to imagine. What would you do in that scenario if you had to? Would you save lives or would you take lives? And that's a great thought pondering exercise to surface up what what's underneath. Like how would you? I love those kind of riddles.
Great. How long do you want to do this? Do we have time? What's your idea about this?
We went over to 11, so that's a good wrap. Any closing remarks? I listen to Invest Like the Best, even though I'm not an investor, but I really enjoy Patrick O'Shaughnessy in that podcast, and I would like to copy what he's doing in a way. And he has this amazing closing question, which wish somebody asked. So I'll ask you that. Mm, What's the kindest thing anybody's done for you?
Okay, so probably my parents raising me. That's what comes to my mind. But that would be the most kindest things. But I'd also like to mention that every once in a while, someone who I'm not expecting at all would go out of their way to help me. It would be little thing, but I would not expect them. And that always inspires me to help more people. But if you ask about the most kindest things, that's probably everything my parents has done for me.
Hmm.
What would your answer be?
the kindest thing somebody's done, or at least people I know around, they've done, I think it goes back to saying they believe in me in a way. So my grandma, we didn't, I mean, I don't know why I was so detached from all the life from from my home, wherever they were. But I was living abroad and everything else. But before I left, my grandma and my granddad, they always, in their own way, they said, no matter what you do, we believe in you. I mean, there was also a math teacher I had in school who was pretty bad at a lot of things, math including, but he changed me in a way where I liked only maths and nothing else. So I was pretty good at numbers for a certain long time because of that. So he believed in me, and so yeah, that's a little things, and I'm grateful for that as well.
Awesome. This was a great conversation. And yeah, it was very fun. It was our first podcast. So I'm sure we have made a lot of mistakes, but let's do more of these. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could plug quickly before we go, I will be also launching something like this similar. So let me create the whole form and everything else, and then the format, and then yeah, we'll definitely do many more sequels. Thanks for this. Catch you later.
Thanks. Bye.